Hello, everyone. Our group has been assigned to present on the elicitation technique Brainstorming for CS364 Section 2. Our group consists of myself, Evan Harrison, Christopher Wilson, and also Kim Llanos. In this presentation, we will be covering various aspects of brainstorming. First, I will give a brief summary of brainstorming. Next, Christopher will discuss some of the upsides and downsides of this technique. Finally, Kim will present on recommendations for the use of brainstorming. She will also present the ideas and data we gathered from stakeholders by using this elicitation technique. First of all, what is brainstorming? It's a concept most of us are familiar with. Brainstorming is a process that includes generating a large number of ideas in order to solve a problem. This technique was developed and explained by an advertising executive named Alex F. Osborne in the mid-1900s. It was contrived mainly as a means of creative problem solving in a group setting of around 5 to 10 people. Brainstorming is most often used in the initial stages of project development, particularly in developing the mission statement for a project. In order to brainstorm effectively, Osborne gives 4 rules to follow. First, the group should try to generate as many ideas as possible. Quantity should be the focus rather than quality. Second, the group should avoid criticizing ideas that are presented. Ideas should not be judged or debated in a brainstorming session. This is not the time to critique the ideas, just a time to generate them. Third, the group should not be afraid to share wild ideas. In fact, those types of ideas ought to be encouraged. Fourth, the group should seek to expand on ideas that have been generated or even seek to improve upon those ideas, obviously without passing judgment on them. Some ideas can even be combined with others to form better ideas. All of this is included in brainstorming. In addition to these rules, it is important that the problem to be solved be very specific and narrowed down. Trying to solve multiple problems in one brainstorming session is not very effective. The idea is to come up with a host of ideas geared towards solving one specific issue. This concludes my portion of the presentation. I'll be turning the time over now to Christopher, who will discuss the advantages and disadvantages of brainstorming.
Thanks, Evan. I'm going to briefly go through some of the advantages and disadvantages of the brainstorming technique. As Evan said, an essential aspect of brainstorming is that it is an open and free space for all of the brainstormers. When we have an anti-criticism environment like this, we have a natural tendency to be more willing to share ideas. We want any and all ideas possible, and so if we're making people feel like their ideas aren't valued, it's going to hinder the creativity and the effectiveness of our brainstorming session. Another advantage is that as we throw all of these ideas out together, many of the ideas might start to tend to cluster together in certain topics. These topics are more likely to be more clearly defined solutions to our problems. We're going to start to see that ideas start to tend to drift in a certain direction, and that's many times the direction we want to pursue for our projects. Another advantage is that it does provide other perspectives. I don't think the same way Kim does. Kim doesn't think the same way Evan does. And all together, our brains working together on one problem is going to create a truly unique solution. A final advantage is that it's cheap. We don't need to pay people. We don't need scripts. We don't need anything. It's just us submitting ideas as fast as we can and as creatively as we can. Some of the disadvantages are as follows. Most of the disadvantages are based on human flaws, human variables. Humans are naturally readable. If I submit an idea and I see that my friend on the other side of the table might have not liked that idea as much, I'm going to tend to clam up. I don't want to share as much anymore. So when we are in brainstorming groups, we really need to make sure we're supportive of all ideas and making everybody want to share ideas because they're getting rewarded for their ideas with celebration. Another problem is that some groups will naturally be more cohesive than others. Social tension kills brainstorming. And so if I'm not comfortable with my peers, I'm not going to share. They've done studies recently that have shown that electronic brainstorming tends to fix these above problems. You get ideas without the emotion behind them. So pure creativity can thrive when we aren't worried about being judged, and we can, in a way, hide behind our screen while still contributing. Next, realism can be forgotten. While we do want to support any and all ideas, if we're working on a meal planning app, we don't want to get off on a tangent about where the next Star Wars movie is going. So while we do want crazy ideas, we want them to be relevant. Finally, we can be influenced by others' ideas. If I see my neighbor is going in a certain direction, my brain might naturally tend to start to kind of follow that train. And we really want to try and stay individual. While some ideas will be more realistic and valuable than others, it's important that we still try to stay individual. So I'm going to go ahead and send the time over to Kim now.
Thanks, Christopher. So when should you use brainstorming? Well, at the beginning of the project. There are no preconceived notions of what the requirements need to be at that time. So using it at project inception is a great jumping off point to get the whole process going. Using it within a group setting is great because you can draw upon the experience and creativity of all the members. So in this case, the sum of all the parts really is greater than the whole. You're going to want to use it when group synergy exists. Group dynamics really determine whether the brainstorming method succeeds or fails. You're going to want to have a group where the participants have no social tension between them, and this allows for uninhibited presenting of ideas, and the group can actually experience a higher level of quality idea exchange because of their rapport. When there's a singleness of purpose and intention, meaning there's an agreement between group participants of what the purpose and the intention for the brainstorming session is going to be, which is to focus on one particular thing, which is to generate ideas, not doing any other project facets at all. When should you avoid using the brainstorming technique? Well, when you're going to do it by yourself. Studies have shown that it's actually less effective because there isn't any synergy. Individual brainstorming can often lead to analysis paralysis or writer's block because we're unable to bounce ideas off of one another. So doing it alone really is often not a good idea. You're not going to want to do it if there's any social roadblocks that exist, such as shyness, any kind of inhibition to speaking publicly, or when dominant personalities exist within the group. So it's really important that everyone has an opportunity to speak and feel like their ideas and contributions will be valued. Lastly, it's really a good idea to avoid brainstorming when there are differing goals and intentions of what the purpose is. So it's important that everyone going into the brainstorming session is on the same page about what they're going to be doing, what they're accomplishing, which is to only generate ideas, not to determine any specific requirements. Here's the data we collected about the meal planning app. People valued having a meal calendar, meals by age, that it makes grocery suggestions, keeps a pantry inventory, makes grocery lists, accounts for variable portions, has a difficulty ranking, there's recipe lists, special diet needs, favorite, you can save the favorite recipes, and has nutrition information. Thank you so much. We know that the brainstorming technique can really be a powerful, powerful tool, but only when it's used correctly and at the correct time. Thank you.